You have this radical kook Obama judge, Tanya Chutkan, who was ruling, rubber stamping everything the government wanted, everything Smith wanted. In fact, she turned the rules of evidence on their head, and she allowed him to file motions making claims where really the defense files motions and the prosecution, that is the government, responds. She reversed it. Even a legal analyst over there at CNN said, wait a minute, I've never seen this in my life. Oh yeah, we've got some weird judges. Ask Merchan. MSLSD. Just the other day, Jack Smith plans to step down before Trump takes office. Oy, oy, oy. Sacco and Vanzetti, go ahead.
Just in, Jack Smith, the special counsel pursuing 2 investigations into President-elect Trump, is set to step down before the new administration takes power. The New York Times reports Smith plans to finish his work.
You know why? It's simple. He's an unconstitutional prosecutor. Donald Trump's going to fire his ass. All the cases collapse based on Department of Justice memos. Right here. They collapse. These cases should never have been brought. The case in Florida was rightly thrown out. The great judge, Cannon, ruled that his appointment was unconstitutional. That position was supported by 2 former attorneys general, Meese and Mukasey, among others, the #1 expert in the entire world on the issue of the Appointments Clause, when you need Senate approval and when you don't. We happen to know who he is. We hired him at Landmark Legal Foundation, which also filed a brief and argued the case down there in Florida. She was right. Her opinion was bulletproof. So that was over. He appealed it, did Smith. You have this radical kook Obama judge, Tanya Chutkan, who was ruling, rubber stamping everything the government wanted, everything Smith wanted. In fact, she turned the rules of evidence on their head, and she allowed him to file motions making claims where really the defense files motions and the prosecution, that is the government, responds. She reversed it. Even a legal analyst over there at CNN said, wait a minute, I've never seen this in my life. Oh yeah, we've got some weird judges. Ask Merchan. So anyway, he was going to be fired. These cases collapsed. That's why they were in a rush to get these cases prosecuted, to get him convicted, to get him in prison before the election, which also violated numerous Department of Justice rules, as I've discussed at great length here. We discussed it first, here, Fox, radio, and so forth. So the whole thing collapsed. And it's also my position that the new Attorney General needs to dig into this and find out who exactly was responsible for what. And anybody who destroys a document can be prosecuted under what? The Presidential Records Act. And if they destroyed any classified information, the Espionage Act. The 2 laws that this moron, that this clown tried to use against Donald Trump when they sent a SWAT team into his home and they did everything possible to affect the election and to destroy Donald Trump's life. Anyway, go ahead.
And resign alongside his team. Smith also plans to file a report that summarizes his work and decisions for release to the public, since his investigations will no longer go to court. Smith is investigating Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election.
Stop. A candidate has every right to try and challenge an election, which means to overturn it. That's exactly what's going on in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania today, at the behest of Chuck Schumer with their slip-and-fall lawyer, Mark Elias. They did the same thing in Minnesota to give Al Franken a Senate seat to take out Norm Coleman more than a decade ago. Al Gore challenged the election in court after court in Florida until the Supreme Court stopped it to overturn the outcome of the election. There's simply nothing criminal about challenging it, about looking for more votes, about encouraging a state legislature to act, about encouraging a board of elections to act. That doesn't mean there's bribery or graft or anything of the sort going on. That doesn't mean there's illegal counting of ballots. That means you want to challenge in every way you know how. This has been the American way since we've had elections. This is the first time it's been criminalized to talk about, and he's trying to overthrow an election. And notice Mika Brzezinski, if that is her name, Mika Brzezinski isn't talking about Pennsylvania, the effort by the Democrats to steal that seat back with Bob Casey, who's basically a mannequin, and with Elias and his actions, and with Chuck Schumer and his actions. Are they going to charge Chuck Schumer now? No, of course not. You wouldn't even think about it. How about Al Gore? Should they have charged him? No, of course not. What are you talking about? And fake electors, they call them, a second line of electors that you send in that you're really required to do if you're challenging an election. Because if you challenge the election and you win the challenge, they're going to say, but you don't have any electors. So in the end, there's nobody to count. 1876, another list of electors was sent in. Nobody was prosecuted for anything. This is the criminalization of politics in the election system. This man, the Department of Justice, and the media are behind it. Go ahead.
His mishandling of classified documents. The Justice Department has a long-standing policy that a sitting president cannot be prosecuted for crime.
You know what's amazing? Nobody knew that, did they, Mr. Producer? Until I dusted off these documents, 1973, 2000, memos written by the Department of Justice, Office of Legal Counsel, which is the pinnacle when it comes to constitutional interpretation for the executive branch. Says it right here. I've talked about it over and over and over again. Others have now figured it out. But it doesn't just talk about indicting. It talks about the entire trial process. So because Donald Trump is elected, he's going to be president, the whole thing collapses. It should never have happened in the first place. None of it. None of it. Go ahead.
So, Sam, there are so many reasons that Jack Smith took this action. One, just the practical impact of it. You also, though, have that long-standing Justice Department ruling.
So what's happened to Scarborough since the week of Donald Trump's election is he's actually trying to be more middle of the road. I don't think it's going to last. I don't think Mika will allow it. I don't think it's going to last. But MSNBC's ratings are plummeting. And CNN's have plummeted so far that they're now only seen on Communist Chinese TV. Otherwise, they're really not watched anywhere else. Go ahead.
And guidance that a sitting president can't be indicted. You also, of course, have the Supreme Court immunity ruling, which looms large over any investigation over the incoming president.
So, I mean, I want you to take a breath. The schmuck actually got it right. Joe, welcome back for 3 days, 4 days maybe. Welcome back. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think it's fitting in a way that this news is breaking on the day that Donald Trump's heading to D.C. to meet with Joe Biden in the White House, getting the audience at the White House that he never gave to Biden during the last transition of power. I mean, this just goes to show you the dual planes on which these two men are operating. Donald Trump prompted an insurrection for which he was investigated.
So you see, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is such a bad guy. And Joe Biden is such a wonderful guy. You know, Joe Biden at least showed Trump respect. Trump never showed Joe Biden respect. Joe Biden didn't deserve respect. And I think it's fair to say, and I'm not one of these conspiracy guys, what the hell did happen to those 10 to 14 million votes? How did he get 81 million votes? I'm serious. How did he get 81 million votes? The highest before that by a Democrat was Obama, got 69 million. And Trump just blew out the whole thing here, but nobody's ever come close to 80 million votes. How did it happen? Something crazy happened. It's not like everybody was pouring out on the streets and all of a sudden we have this massive number of people. Historians will seriously be talking about this for 100 years. They will, serious people, when we get far enough away from this where they can actually look back and, and actually do some scholarship, they're going to wonder, because I'm sitting back looking at the number and I'm wondering, how the hell did this happen?
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.